Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Low Key Legends. Today we are going to do our second video about Legends of Bahari, which is the stream DM World is doing, sponsored by Guild Gaming. The first one was pretty much a very basic intro to the world and the lore, kind of like my base thoughts. Today we're going to talk about the nations, the established places within Bahari. Like I said, we'll get a map when I get one I like. I keep destroying maps and making them anew. I will find one that makes me content, or I will draw one that makes me content. But until then, they are destroyed, and it's just a thing in my head that I slowly kind of mesh together to make lemonade. Second disclaimer. I am absolutely terrible at naming things. I hate naming things. I hate naming places. I mean, I could describe who they are and make their whole backstory, but boy, when you ask me to name him, it's kind of bad. Like, but hey, it's not just a bunch of like John and stuff like that. So I actually put a little thought in. So let's get to it, shall we? So after the ruins of the flood, there are some nations, and I will go over each one with some varying amounts of detail. There are things that I would kind of like reveal through characters' backstories and their own. That some of them are from some of these places specifically. But I thought just some basic information, some of the base stuff I gave them would be cool for you guys. So first is Moradin. The Kingdom of Moradin is a dwarven nation that is now in the mountain of Moradin, which is where it got its new name. Now, Moradin, it was a mountain that was kind of like an Everest-style mountain. It was monstrous. So even with the flooding of the waters, Moradin started to flood, but imagine they were plugging the holes and things like that. So Moradin is mostly underwater inside the dwarven hold, with these almost now these giant kind of vent things that give it air. But Moradin is now the primary supplier of metals and mined goods to the world. That's a lot of power. Moradin is also not just a dwarven kingdom, but is also a kobold kingdom, because they also are good at the dug. So kobolds essentially and dwarves kind of started to work together, and they were given the title Morin, which means born under the mountain. So essentially kobolds and dwarves live here equally. The queen is in my notes. Yep, there's a queen. She has a name. Got it. It's a monarchy. Did I really name her last name Hannah Dunkirk? Yep, I did. It's Dunkirk. That's why you have notes. Because of these things. Okay. So, big thing about the Kingdom of Moradin is the Contract of Iron. This is something that every nation had to sign. This is something that even the pirate lords put their names on. All powers of the sea abide by the Contract of Iron. And what this means is any ship that bears the Moradin flag is granted, supposedly, safe passage and protection from any other ship who has signed the Contract of Iron. It also has a punishment clause. So let's say you're a pirate who raids a ship that bears the flag of Moradin. Other nations are obligated to hunt you down and kill you for what you've done. Essentially keeping everyone in check, because without the metals, Moradin supplies, you're done. Now, granted, I'm not saying that kind of stuff doesn't happen, but getting caught is pretty much a death sentence. Like a world bounty could be almost placed on your head. Even the pirate lords abide by it because you need metal for cannons. You need metal for cannonballs. You need these things around. Morden is the supplier. So they have a pretty strong hold on that. So the contract of iron is the main thing. And the nation of Moradon and the Morin, the kobolds who have given the title Born Under the Mountain. That is under Queen Hannah Dunkirk. Now, my next nation is Florna, and it is the last great forest of Zorn. Xorn, Zorn. Now, imagine I essentially had this kind of like the great trees kind of adapted themselves, and then now their roots like go deep within the seafloor, almost like a network of vines and things, and slowly land has kind of grown, attaching them together. So it's like this forest that has become its own landmass. And apparently this is possible through high magic that the elves have. This is an elven nation. And it is ruled by the Queen of Seasons, Liliana. She, of course, has advisors and a council, but it is a majority elf and half-elf nation that also provide the majority of timber to the land of Bahari. They also essentially are the few places one can learn higher levels of magic. Not saying it's the only place. I can't talk about too much of that because that gets into story stuff. But there is an institution of magic on this continent. So then I was like, well, I want to do something else. So then I made a massive construct of wood and metal. And imagine like it started off as a few ships kind of connected together. And then it kept happening. So what you have now is this like floating city. This floating wooden city that is now just called the Conclave. And it is now a full-blown city that now floats on the water. The only like kind of man-made city. Now, it is ruled by a hall of commerce where 13 people sit down, they make laws and trade policy. Out of the 13 seats, 6 seats are reserved for the 6 strongest guilds. The other 6 are the 6 wealthiest merchants in the city. So 6 are given to guilds, 6 are given to the wealthiest merchants, and then 1 is like an elected kind of official who's like an overseer. But not like elected by like the common people, elected by anyone who has like the merchant logo, anyone who has made a name for themselves get an opportunity. Like, you know, some person who sweeps the deck is not going to get a right to vote for who this is. So this is a place where money talks, essentially, where high deals and there's constantly competition to essentially usurp those 6 seats. Because essentially, if you're one of the wealthiest merchants and you're not on one of the council of 6, you're trying to get one of those spots. And you're going to compete as well you can for one of those spots. So it's a very competitive. I've already established that the top 3 are kind of so solidly in their position. It would take some massive plot and planning and upheaval for one of the top 3 to lose their seats. I'm not going to go too much into who they are just yet because it ties to character things. So we're not going to go too deep, but it is a merchant city that is floating with guilds and things like that. I'm hoping to get some really cool kind of play on play where like they get to deal with like all these dueling factions and they can kind of decide who they're going to put their lot into. That's my hope when I made it. With that, I also made a traveling fleet, a wandering fleet, a migrant fleet. And my inspiration for this fleet was very much anyone who's played the Mass Effect series. It was the Quarians. Quarians were where I got the idea of this migrant fleet of people. Very Vistani, Romanian kind of idea, but on like the sea. and they move around. They have bazaars on their ships, and they kind of sail around. And I'm not finished really flushing out all their traditions and things like that yet, but I just kind of wanted that. I thought it'd be kind of cool. All right, so now let's go into the other big nations. Well, there is a Jade Empire led by Empress Zhaoling Mei. It essentially was formed from the Eastern nations, kind of congealed after the flood. There are clans. I pretty much did clans based on like the elements: Earth Clan, Wind Clan, Water Clan, and each clan has a role. The Earth Clan protects the borders. The Wind Clan are artisans and crafters. The Water Clan are traders and diplomats. The Fire Clan are warriors and explorers. And then the Void Clan watches and protects from the shadows. So when I made them, I was very much I had just got the L5R books, and I was very much into the that kind of deal. L5R, Legend of the Five Rings. And so I kind of wanted, it was kind of, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of inspired by that when I made them. They also are the primary providers of gunpowder. They make the finest gunpowder, the best gunpowder. Like I said, I'm borrowing a lot from actual history and then manipulating it myself to suit my needs, which is, what you're supposed to, which all DMs do. So from there, we have Queen Gabriela Dolores VIII, who rules España. What is España? It is literally conquistador era Spain. It is literally exploration Spain. That's what I modeled it after. So España was built after the flood from the Dolores family. It is a society which is a caste system of nobles and vassals. And the royal family rules over. Many try to claim glory by finding new lands and new resources. So you can kind of go above your station if you can find something really good. So it very much kind of feels in that explorational kind of world, because if you want to have that title, if you want to be noble, if you weren't born that way, there's a chance. You just got to find something. She is known to give out like boons and things like that based on what you have found, which has kind of given them a very aggressive view of spreading themselves around whatever land is left in Bahari, because land is a huge commodity. So that has kind of affected their relations with other nations to an extent. So then we have Holland, which is essentially my version of like England expansion era, kind of, sort of, with Queen Victoria Jules. She also is called Queen of the Grave because she has had 5 husbands who have died in accidents. So, aspiring men and women have joined expeditions in the dark seas to gain fame and favor. And what is a little known secret is that she gives writs of piracy in order to keep other nations in check, like España. So she has like actual pirateers that, pillage and plunder for king and country, James? King and country. That kind of deal. They are a little bit smaller than España, but they are very they are the closest ties to what would be like an older nation, and their kingdom holds many secrets of the past, which is as far as I can go. That was really ominous. I think before I talked about my orcs in the last session, but then I did another thing, and hobgoblins. I made them like Mongols, so like the Huns kind of deal, and I pulled from a different thing, but they have like these, it's called the tradition of the sword, where if you are a hobgoblin, minotaur, a few other races like that, and you joined the ranks, even taking humans and other races too, but essentially you are given a weapon. And that weapon has a history going back to the flood, and you are kind of told its story, and it's like a clan of warriors. They are mercenaries by trade, and they work for the highest bidder, but they're known for their skill, their excellence, and what has to be. So what I did was I took Mongols, I took Mandalorians, I took a bunch of different like Ronin, and I like made them this weird thing. And then like a little touch of the name of the wind in there, just a little sprinkle like salt. So I took all these ideas and I was like, this, and that's what they are. So you're gonna in my world, you're gonna eventually find that these mercenaries are everywhere, different ranks. Mike, who's in Coffee and Crits, he decided to make a Minotaur who is from this society. So I'm hoping I can help explore that with him. So these are the nations and the powers. And, of course, don't forget the pirate lords I mentioned last go. And I hope that this is, well, my players also know this information, but now you guys know. Just some more background and things like that. I will go into more about Bahari as we continue on. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is just a very just taste of kind of what I have planned, some of the things I have kind of going for me, and maybe the next episode I do about Bahari will be kind of like what happened during their opening game, like their pre-game, and maybe I'll have a few of them here with us, and we'll all talk about the game together. Maybe I'll work that out. Maybe we'll do it at the guild. I literally have no idea because I'm just going off the top of my head. But anyway, guys, continue to listen, continue to like. Don't forget to check out Guild Gaming on Facebook and DM World on Facebook. Shout out to Ravage for doing this for us. And we'll be checking us out on Twitch soon. And remember, guys, the quest, it never ends, even on the sea.